like 45 minutes still tonight because I wasn't expecting to do an hour.
Welcome everybody to Ballers and Briefs. We are in the 2024 post-draft breakdown. The NFL draft has come and gone, and it is fantasy season already starting to look us down the barrel. So tonight we are here to break it all down for you. Got my man Brad here, and we're gonna just get straight into
everybody?
that.
Back at it again a little bit.
Yes, definitely, and we
recap from what we talked about in the last episode. So it'll be nice to now put the pieces all to the puzzles that we were talking about before. So it'll be a good episode for the people who saw it, the last one.
Yes, definitely. So without further ado, let's just get to the stuff to the meat and potatoes here. Let post draft breakdown. So let's just jump straight back into the last time. If you were with us last time, pre-draft, we had the top rookie fantasy weapons brought to us by Keele Athletics. Tonight, we are going to reevaluate where those 5 guys that we talked about last time ended up being drafted, teams that they ended up on, and just a little fantasy taste for you viewers out there to get you primed and ready going into the season. So let's jump straight into our first person on the board, Marvin Harrison Jr. So we told you guys to watch out. We ended up having Marvin mocked in the number 5 spot to the Chargers, but the Cardinals did not want to move out of that spot, and he lands with Arizona. So
what did you think about that fit?
I think it's good for Kyler Murray. I'm not too sure if I'm absolutely 100% sold on that it's good for Marvin Harrison Jr., but because I'm not the biggest fan of the ownership down there in Arizona and Phoenix or in Glendale. So I'm not really sure. But he could be a foundational piece for them for years to come, especially in because he's young. He's got a good pedigree. His dad is known to be a worker. So, and that's really what he supposedly is. That's why he didn't do all of the crazy stuff at the combine and everything like that. It was supposed to be just all business all day. He hasn't even signed his NFLPA contract yet. So his jersey can't even be sold. He can't be added to any kind of games or anything right now. So it's just all business. Pay me, right? Like that. I'm here to play ball. So, but I just
he's definitely doing it a little bit differently than the people before him. But again, you do get a little bit of a lean and an advantage when you're the son of a Hall of Famer. So yes. That always helps as far as for quote unquote paving the way, or not necessarily having to jump at deals that other people automatically take. You can add that into the portfolio a little bit. But from a football standpoint, I actually like the fit here a little bit more, just from the standpoint that I didn't really see Arizona go too defensive heavy, and the point being is that because of that, I don't see that defense being too much better than what it was the previous last year. And because of that, it seems to me that they're going to be down in a lot of games, which is going to lead to more potential targets for Harrison Jr. that he may have had in the different situations. I also like the scramble ability of Kyler Murray to extend plays, and that maybe that might also give sort of a rookie a little bit more time to get down the field, or change his route up a little bit, freestyle it. And able to get targets through that as well. Because sometimes, in the NFL, they can lock down on that first route. So 100%. I do, again, like this fit. Also, just with the other weapons outside of him, there's not really a lot. I have to go and look at now the full new roster for them, but there's not really a lot else out there. And again, that's a really good thing from a fantasy perspective, as I love that the target share is going to go to him. More targets, more catches, more points.
Well, with Hollywood gone and also Rondell Moore gone, really that wide receiving room there in Arizona is Marvin Harrison. I think Michael Wilson, I think it was his name, the dude that was around he was up and down a lot last season. He was at the top at once, and then he was just bust for weeks on end, and then he came back around every once in a while. And then Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch, I called him a couple times, especially in
Fantasy, like a
afternoon
sleeper.
games like DFS. Yeah, so I was like, y'all need to get in some Greg Dortch on the afternoon slate, and that ended up being something that paid off for some people, and then obviously Trey McBride, the tight end down there. So, but I want to bring everybody's attention down here to the to what we call the fantasy brief here. This is just kind of a little tidbit to kind of give you like an when it comes to league fantasy and even DFS kind of in a way, but more or less geared towards league fantasy. So what we're thinking is that Marvin Harrison could be somewhere into the 9 to 20 range wide receiver. I know that's a huge range, but being that he's a rookie and he's on a team that tends to throw the ball, but is kind of behind sometimes. Sometimes they're winning, sometimes they're not. Most of the time they're not. But he could be the 9th best wide receiver all the way down to the 20 best wide receiver, according to other fantasy stats. And then when you're drafting, you're looking for him somewhere in, depending on what size your league is, 10-man, 12-man, 10-man, somewhere in like probably the third, top of the third, mid-third, and then maybe like a 12-man, depending on what you're looking at down the road and quarterback as a late second round pick. So this fantasy brief here is basically just for people to get some thoughts in on where guys should go in the draft for fantasy league. So
and I would just to kind of think about and kind of give the viewers a little bit more of a pinpoint of view. I would almost say think more towards the back part of it, in the sense that unless he has some sort of a breakout preseason, I think the risk is a little too high in between 9 and 15, but a little after that, especially in sort of even 11 or a 12 man, at that point you're now into the second round where people will be willing to take that chance a little bit more. And that would be a safe pick for you to go with if you already sort of got your sort of really go-to maybe receiver, running back in your first round pick. So
I mean, he's
I would
definitely
say a
a
bit
wide
more
receiver two,
towards the
wide receiver
second
two.
round than the first round in traditional 12 mans.
Oh yeah, definitely. I said he's definitely on a fantasy team, a wide receiver two flex type play, depending on. And then for all the people out there that are doing dynasty, and I know that we're not heavily invested in dynasty. I think he
Yeah.
is a wide receiver one in dynasty, because if you're looking for years to come down the road, he's the guy that you should be targeting, because he's going to be that guy in Arizona for a while at least. So
A
I
sneaky
think
play might be even, if you want to get real sneakier, as we always say, get different. Maybe you get different by going Harrison a little early. And then I think Kyler Murray falls really, really, really late as far as for a quarterback. You might be able to pick him up really, really late. Add that in, and sort of, even if he's not your
stack.
go-to quarterback, one, if you need that combo in the off or a bye week, or your quarterback goes down, that's a nice combo to have for at least a week.
I mean, and it's a good, and Kyler Murray is always a good kind of streamer pick, here and there. I mean, obviously most people could run him out as a quarterback one, but in
Yeah.
you're playing a back end defense, which they're going to be a lower schedule team, right? Like they're going to be playing the bottom feeder-esque teams of the league. So that could work. They could work out. So I think
Yep.
Marvin Harrison is a safe pick here. And it was crazy that he went 4. I honestly did. I thought Arizona was going to trade out, but good for Arizona and good for Marv, because I think that this will end up being good, because he could be that Larry Fitzgerald type guy going forward there for them.
Yes.
So
Agree.
Next up on the board is this is a guy that we had last week, or in the pre-draft process. Malik Neighbors coming out of LSU. We had him. Actually, had him going. I had him going to Arizona because I had him trading this Giants pick, trading up and swapping. So, but he stayed at 6. He didn't fall any further than
And the
that.
traditional mocks and the other mocks, they had him pretty much pegged in at the New York Giants too, though.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
basically where he was going.
The I think that Malik Neighbors fits very well pretty much on any team in the NFL. But what scares me most about him is who his quarterback is. That's what scares me. He's going to be essentially the number one there in New York. I mean, what they got Slayton and Wandale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt, but I mean that's just a mixed bag of stuff. And then you got Daniel Jones, and is Waller going to play? Nobody knows. Like he hasn't made that decision if he's going to retire or not. And then the whole thing with his divorce that's been keeping things going up in the air. So that, I mean, people calling that Kelsey Plum popcorn video. I don't know if people have seen that. I have no idea why people are calling that cringy. She just looks like some goofy girl to me. Like that's all. I don't think she's cringy at all. So, but the thing that scares me here is who's throwing him the ball, because I don't know what's up with Daniel Jones. Like I literally thought the Giants had 1 foot out the door with him, but I guess when you pay somebody that, what is he making, 30 plus million this coming season,
40,
close to 40 or something, close to 40, if not 40. Yeah. So you got to stick with that, I guess. So I think you look here, he's the 20 to 25 best receiver possibly, and I don't think you're I honestly, he's gonna be one of those guys that he's gonna be your third wide receiver on your team in fantasy. I just because of what it is. I've never seen. I can't tell you that I can ever remember a Giants wide receiver, at least with the Daniel Jones era, that's been a fantasy number 1 or number 2 relevant wide receiver. I mean, I just can't. I can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean, well, for Giants fans, you're hoping for another, reincarnation of Odell Beckham Jr. a little bit, and sort of the seasons that he had on sort of but those of course were with Eli. But you're sort of hoping for that in return. But am a little bit nervous, and as I said in the previous episode about, as you just already said, the quarterback. That bothers me a little bit about it, but I still think that sort of the ceiling for Malik Neighbors is sort of Garrett Wilson and what he was able to do in his rookie season. Even with the quarterbacks that he had, sometimes just really good receivers are able to overcome that to at least have an effective campaign and still show off their production. But then it could be, you could also be looking at other situations where you brought in receivers like Hyatt, where you haven't seen the production, even though all the talent is there, but you haven't seen it fully. Or even Wandale Robinson, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, but you still haven't really seen the production be off the charts or even in the 1,000-yard range. So that's a little bit of the nervous part about it, is that a lot of his skill set is their skill set, in the sense is his ability to separate, more of a speedy guy. While he can go up and get it, he's not, that 6'4", 6'6" type receiver. So it still brings a different element. Not to say that he won't come down with it in a sort of Jamar Chase style, but it just lends to a little bit of an ability for DBs to kind of have a little bit more of an effect on him in comparison to other receivers.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% true, and like I said, I want everybody to pay attention to where he should go. I mean, it could be that if you get in a league with people that are just gung ho and like think that, oh, I'm just going to be that guy that just takes all the rookies up. I'm not pushing for him before the 4th round myself, maybe 5th, depending on. I mean, we tend to play. You and I both play in a 10-man usually and a 12-man usually. So he might be one of those guys that, okay, well, am I trying to get sleepy here, trying to get shifty? All right, I look down at the bottom of the schedule and say, okay, does he have back end matchups that could be beneficial to me during a bye week or during like some spot in the season to where he's going to be that guy? He has got to be a number 1, like you said, like a Garrett Wilson type, but he's got to have a quarterback that can carry him along. And I just don't know if Daniel Jones is that guy. But without Saquon Barkley, and then they drafted another running back, and then they brought in Devin Singletary. So he could be that guy that just eats targets because that's all they've got. Is just throw him the ball and see what he could do with it. So And PPR, he could be. I don't think I'm running him out there in the first couple weeks, but he may make me eat my words after the third or fourth week, and he might be that guy that just okay, he's just going to get force fed, kid. That's pretty much your life. So, but pay attention to him. He's got all the skills in the world, and he can move. He can move. So, you have any more thoughts of him, or are you ready to go to the next one?
Nope. We're ready to go into the next one.
Okay. So here is what makes I know Brad sad, according to where he had him mocked at number 9. He did have him at number 9, but he did not have him.
At 9.
He did not have him. He did not have him going to the Bears, but he had them going to the Jags.
My good old Jags.
Now, but this guy, I think, is probably your sleepiest of the sleeper guy that goes in the first round. Because the simple fact of the matter is, he doesn't have to go out and be a number 1. He's got 2 number 1s on his team, and he's got a rookie quarterback throwing him the ball. This is like, as Brad loved to pull this last year with the Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is the Jackson Smith and Jigba play right here. You're going to hear Rome Odunze all season long from Brad because he's going to be pulling that same Jackson Smith and Jigba. Oh, yeah, he's got a good matchup against the third corner because you got Keenan Allen in the slot and you got DJ on the other side. Rome's going to be on that other side, and he's going to be eating. I mean, that's 31 to 46 wide receiver range, and in late rounds, again, unless the only way I can see this is him jumping up the boards. If someone takes Caleb Williams higher in your leagues and wants to try to get a stack because somebody's already kept the Keenan Allen and DJ Moore away from him. But this guy, he's going to have that Jackson Smith and Jigba third man up tight game because you can cover. You usually have one elite corner and one good corner, and then your nickel or whoever's covering the third man is usually a safety, So
I agree. I think that this is sort of your premier. If you're going to lock sort of your flex situation, this is who you want. Rome Odunze is who you want on your flex when you're sort of starting your season. It's a perfect setup in the sense, again, that he's a 3 in a situation where there's no way that they're going to be able to double everyone, and they're not going to double him because he's a rookie. And that's where you kind of get that different style. You'll get to pick up somebody who is going to get targets. I believe also going to get red zone targets, not just targets outside of the red zone. And that's going to open up to additional points for you. Again, I love the size, love the speed that matches with the size. And that's going to be perfect for him as the 3 because he's going to be able to catch balls in space and basically absorb hits and not be as affected by it in comparison to a smaller receiver. And so, again, just watch out for this matchup. I think it'll be good to see him in the preseason just to see sort of where they want to use him or how they end up using him. But if they use him the way we predict, which is then using him more in the slot role, then that's where it opens up the targets for him. Not to say that he can't do it outside and sort of your X or Z, but sort of in our predicted position for him, I think that's where he'll be most effective.
Yeah,
just like you said in your brief, just like I said in the brief, 31 to 46, perfect spot. By then you would have already picked up, again, probably a quarterback. Running back and a receiver. In your fantasy draft, which then allows you to think about sort of, do you want to handle your flex there and take care of that? Or he could potentially be a wide receiver too. And so, again, it's just sort of how you want to end up playing it.
If you look at that,
the targets are going to add up, the catches are going to add up, and that makes you potentially a receiver too. Now, it could be that Chicago could run into a situation where they have so many mouths to feed. It could get ugly. And so then again, that's where it makes it that 31 or 46 range.
This essentially tells you that he is the 31 to 46. So this is with all, not just rookies, right? Like this is all wide receivers drafting, right? So this is going to have more than likely going to have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore in front of him. So that tells you that that's 3 guys on one team in the top 31. So like there's 32 teams in the league. So there's got to be a team or two left out with their number ones aren't even going to make in that. Even if he falls back to the 46 ish, that's 1.5 receivers. You know what I'm saying? So literally,
Yep.
he's coming into the best situation, I think, out of all the
I
rookie
think so
receivers,
too.
because he doesn't have to. He does not have to be that number one coming
Nope.
off the jump. So, with
And
that
that
being,
less pressure, that less pressure allows also the teams to get unique with him. Maybe
yeah,
strong crosses across the field. Those long
yes,
15-yard Justin Jefferson routes, I call them.
yeah,
You basically angling across the field. That's where he's going to be able to really
yeah,
do his work.
yeah. So, with that being said, I think I'm gonna go to the guy that I think got the shittiest end of the stick. I literally feel like my man here, Brock Bowers, got like I everybody says, oh yeah, he's gonna go down there. Well, they just drafted Michael Meyer last year. They did. Same damn quarterback. I mean, of course, they started the season with Jimmy Garoppolo, but they ended with Aiden O'Connell. So now they got Aiden O'Connell and
Gardner Minshew, right?
the last boy. You know what I'm saying? So like, I mean, so like, literally got asked the other day, who do you think is going to start? Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew? And I said, well, it should be. I would think it's going to be O'Connell because he's ended the season as a starter, but little last boy is going to take it from him probably. So just because he's a little more mobile, but I think Brock Bowers here suffers. Like I really do, because you got to. I just don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you look at the numbers here, 7th to 11th tight end. I mean that puts all of your top tier guys in there, plus some that came in before him. I mean, I, I
Where do
don't
we
know.
had him mock? Where do we had him
The
mock?
Jets
Uh,
had him at 10 to the Jets. Had
okay,
him to 10 at
okay,
the Jets, in which I thought
yep,
that was going to be the case, but they let him pass him
yeah.
by, and then the Raiders took him, and I'm just like, okay, well maybe AP's got a plan. Antonio Pierce has got a plan to use him more often, and maybe it's because that he can do things that Michael Meyer couldn't do. Doesn't have to actually line him up as a tight end. He can put him in a slot. So you got Devontae, Jacoby, and Brock Bowers as basically your 3, and then you have Michael Meyer on the end. Technically, it's a 12 personnel, but it's really not because he's lined up in the slot. So I don't know. I'm not super happy with it. I think that you can get him somewhere after the 7th to 11th round, because everybody's going to go out there and grab the Travis Kelce's, the Greg Kittles, Sam Laporta's ass is going to be gone probably first or second. Then you got everybody's big back on the Kyle Pitts train because of Kirk Cousins. So I think he's probably another one of those guys to watch and see how he goes along the season. He could grab him as your second tight end and then just see how it goes from there. But I was super high on him going to be a number one, but I saw people like reaching for him like in the first round. There's absolutely no way I would ever do that. And I'm the biggest Brock
Yeah,
Bowers fan ever. So
and just like you said, Cody, it's a little bit more of the fact that they just drafted a tight end early last round. I really do actually like Michael Meyer. I think they have sort of a similar skill set. Meyer's a little bit bigger. Brock Bowers may have a little bit more speed, but I just wonder, it's hard to kind of figure out the packages, or maybe they're not high on Michael Meyer, sort of than what we would think they would be. And so he will sort of be that traditional number one starter in. But even then, I would have to go back and look to see sort of the production that even Gardner Minshew gave to tight ends when he was playing previously, because I don't recall that. I know a lot of passes going to Pittman, I think, when he was with the
yeah,
Colts,
yeah,
more so than really targets towards the tight end. So that makes me a little nervous. And then also, I don't recall Meyer having a lot of production in the offense with Aiden O'Connell. So then it makes me wonder how they're going to actually scheme up the tight end a little bit better within this offense. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe they're going to bring in more of the the San Francisco style offense where they are utilizing more so two tight ends or a tight end and more of a maybe they play him like sort of like a fullback, Cody, almost
Like
like
a
a Chris
juice,
Poole style,
like
but you're not
like
really
a
a
use tech
fullback.
type.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean
maybe
they're
they're
bringing in
looking at it like that. I don't know, but it just worries me a little bit. Stash him, put him on the bench, see what
he's a great
happens.
dynasty
If he
play too, for
blows
sure.
up, play him. But
Yeah,
draft someone in front of him to protect yourself, or go for a sort of someone is going to get you at least that 12 to 15.
yeah. So I mean, the Raiders brought in Luke Getsy, who was the offensive coordinator there in Chicago uh, last season. So we know kind of what they did with Cole Kmet. So I guess, but we're just gonna have to see. Like literally, take
Yeah.
somebody. You can get somebody in front of him and then steal him later in the later rounds as your second tight end, and then just plug and play for injury buy purposes. I think that's somebody that you could possibly do, or you just trick your friends into taking him early, and then you take somebody that's better than him later. So that's what you should do. Build up all the hype.
I would say a
And
comp on him on the high end, just to kind of close though, and a comp on him on the high end would be Dallas Goddard. Sort of that
they
type
have
of
him like
production.
ranked like 13th,
Um,
like the 13th best tight end. So
okay,
that's
yeah,
a great
like
comp. So I would think so.
if you're kind of trying to think about sort of what he may do, that's what I would think.
Yeah. So on to the last man on the totem pole. We go into another Georgia Bulldog, Lab McConkey in the second round. It was a 34th pick. I heard Harbaugh was just like, "Do not let him go by. We got to get up. We got to get him. Like, don't let him go." Like, and I knew that Pat McAfee had the GM for the Chargers on the show yesterday or the day before, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't want to let him get by." And when you got a quarterback like Justin Herbert that can get somebody like this the ball, turn him loose, And we had him mocked. I had him mocked at 32 to the
Yeah,
Chiefs, and when he slipped out of the
it was
first
so
round, I was
close,
like, somebody's gonna
but it
steal
was
him.
right there
Somebody's
though. It
some,
was
but I
right
remember
there.
I think I did say to some, I don't know, it was to you during on draft night or somebody. I was like, somebody's going
Yep.
to get him, and so the Chargers probably going to grab him in the second round, and damn sure they did grab him. I mean, he's one of those guys. You take him late, 45, 45th. So he's your third wide receiver you drafted. He's going to be the best wide receiver you drafted. Watch, because I mean, literally that wide receiver room there in Los Angeles are just a bunch of cast-offs right now, right? They've got McConkey. They signed.
Johnson.
They drafted Brendan Rice. They got Quentin Johnson from the first round pick from them last year. They still got Josh Palmer, and then they just signed Chark today. DJ Chark. They signed him today. So I mean and Darius Davis, their pick, another pick from last season. I mean, Ladd, I think he automatically comes in as at least a 2-second option, maybe, depending on what Herbert likes. And I mean, this is going to be a run, ground, and pound team, as we know, because that's what we know Jim Harbaugh does, even though he does like to chuck the ball. So this is going to be, we're going to pound you, pound you, pound you, pound you. Oh, wait, there's Ladd McConkey way down the field. Justin Herbert launched that rocket and get it to this man. So I think Ladd's probably a steal as well, especially if you can get him super late. In
Yeah, really.
11
We
range.
really like this spot because I think that he fits the perfect sort of reincarnation of Wes Welker to me a little bit here. I mean, he has that same sort of skill set, and ability to, if the offense is schemed correctly, which I think is what they're end up going to do, after they sort of get to that sort of ground and pound, they're going to spread it out, and that's going to open up his ability to throw the ball sort of to that slot role more so than the outside. And I think that this is a perfect fit for Herbert, who's basically only been having sort of more so outside receivers to go to, not necessarily that pure slot sort of handy guy that's going to get you those yards in the middle of the field, get you that 5 to 7. But from a fantasy perspective, I see him getting at least 5 to 7 targets a game, at least to start. And so what he does with that, we'll have to wait and see as far as for how it's going to all play out. It's a little bit difficult because you do have a new coach here and a new offensive scheme. But I do
Greg
believe just
Roman.
overall, when you look at the roster, it's going to lend to him being able to sort of either, if not even in the slot, even on the outside, it's going to lend to again at least 5 to 7 targets. So again, great fit. I think he's going to really be able to do some damage in the NFL this year.
It's that Greg Roman offense that was with Lamar up until 2 years ago. So it could
Yep.
be. I don't think
Okay.
they're gonna make pound. I mean, literally brought the whole freaking Ravens backfield over there with Gus and J.K. Dobbins. So
Okay.
they're gonna be fine running the ball, but it's going to be that and that type of game. I think. And I know he was offensive coordinator with Buffalo in like 2016 through like 2015 through like 2017, and I was gonna look and see like who that roster was. If that was when Cole Beasley was there, I can't remember, or if he was not, if he hadn't made it there yet. Tyrod Taylor, Robert Woods. Here we go. There's your Robert Woods, Buffalo Bills. Robert Woods, 51 catches, 613 yards.
There it is.
I mean, that tight,
Yep.
that just tells you right there. I mean, Marquise Goodwin, 29 catches, 413 yards. That was the 2016 year. The 2017 year was Kelvin Benjamin, Deontay Thompson was on that team. Let me see. Yeah, those are probably the time that he was there, but the guys that are, I would say, are in the same type style that he ran. So I think that's the kind of numbers that would be relative to look at. Obviously, he had Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback, but we know that Herbert's better. I mean, again, the season before that, he had Sammy Watkins, 60 catches for 1,047 yards, and then Robert Woods, 47 catches, 552 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So I'm just saying here, he's that type of guy that Robert Woods is, and he's not afraid to block. So there you go, that hard worker. So that's all of our top fantasy rookie picks that we talked about in the pre-draft process. So let's just move straight into some guys that we felt like were steals by teams, but will be fantasy steals if you can steal them in your league. And this is with all due sincerity. That doesn't mean that these guys are going to go off immediately, but again, those guys, dynasty leagues stash, PPR leagues stash them. You know, these guys help you later on into the playoffs and stuff like that. And the one that I just knew in round 2 was going to be the biggest deal was A.D. Mitchell. Like, I mean, I had like this. I guess I had this like moment when A.D. Mitchell was in the pre-draft process that I forgot. I guess my brain just went to sleep because he went to UT. So I guess I blocked that out, that he was at Georgia and won 2 national championships with us. And like I literally just blocked that out. I must have, just because I felt like he was a traitor, and I just blocked him out as a Georgia Bulldog, right? And I went back and was watching his tape, and I was like, holy shit. They let this man slip out of the first round. Why? Why? So A.D. Mitchell is nasty, and being he again another guy that does not have to come in automatically and be the number 1 option. He's a number 3 starting out behind Pittman Jr., JD, Josh Downs, and now A.D. Mitchell. Like, It's insane.
Yeah, I like the Adonai Mitchell pick, but I also like number two here, Keon Coleman, because of the fit. Um, More than anything else, I think that he goes into a perfect fit because someone has to replace the production of Gabe Davis and the production of Stephon Diggs over in Buffalo with Josh Allen. He's going with potentially a Hall of Fame quarterback on his team, whereas a lot of the other players, of course, Xavier Worthy as well, but some of the other fits don't necessarily have that same type of a quarterback play. So again, that's going to lead them to additional targets. It doesn't seem like the offense is being set up primarily to run the ball in Buffalo, at least not the way it seems like they're building from a roster procurement standpoint. But and again, that would lead to more targets. And for Coleman, he reminds me of a Mike Evans in the sense that he's going to be able to get those red zone targets that basically and turn those into touchdowns, or you can kind of just throw it up and he brings it down. And so that's perfect for a Josh Allen style. And so really watch out for him as far as for on a fantasy perspective. If you can catch him late, uh, he might end up being, as high as a wide receiver two for you as the year goes on. You might want to try him out at flex. If not, just hold him and wait. But that's potentially a number one that's probably going to fall a little bit because of the fact that he's a rookie and there's a lot of risk associated with it. But
Stack,
I really
stack,
like that pick.
stack.
Yes.
That's the word here. Like if you can stack him with Josh Allen, if you're one of those crazy psychos that want to go Josh Allen in round one or round two, and you don't try to put this guy with them, you're losing out. So I think that's great. And hell, I don't know if anybody's watched him, but like watch the videos. The dude's got a hell of a great personality. Like he seems to be he's like a kid in a candy store now. So he's great. Another one, Jonathan Brooks may not be a household name unless you're really like invested in like Big 12 or University of Texas football. But Jonathan Brooks, I think he's going to
Watch
be.
the tape though. Go
Yes.
back and watch the tape and watch what you're looking because you're looking at potentially, and maybe that's too high, but he reminds me of Le'Veon Bell in the way he attacks the hole, the way he presses the gap, waits, patient, but he's still a stronger back. So once he does hit the hole, even if you do get him in the hole, he's going to fall forward for a couple yards. Watch out for him, especially with Bryce Young this year. They're going to, even the running back, I believe Chuba Hubbard had some fairly okay productive games within that offense last year. So I think if you plug in a Brooks style, he reminds me almost for the Carolina Panther fans out there, a little D'Angelo Williams. I know I'm going
Yeah.
back a little bit, showing
Yeah.
my
No.
age a little bit. Jonathan Stewart, but he reminds
Jonathan
me of
Stewart a
those
lot.
style
Yeah.
backs. Then and so if those type of backs are going to be able to get it up into the hole, run those power schemes, and really have a lot of effectiveness in this style offense. And he's more of an NFL running back, I guess to say, than he is a college running back, in the sense that he knows how to get that strong 4 yards, which is what's going to make you be successful in the NFL in a long term.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and last season he had 25 receptions for 286 yards there in Texas, which obviously with all these other guys that catch the ball there in Texas, that says a little something, So moving on to another Texas Longhorn, Xavier Worthy, obviously the Chiefs trading with the Bills to trade up and take Worthy. A lot of people, I mean,
do you like Worthy more than Pearsall?
I think the fact of the matter is with for the Chiefs,
still perspective.
I'm saying I think this was a steal because a lot of people had him graded in first round, but maybe falling into the second round. It was just pure speed, right? I think for the scheme, Worthy is a steal for the scheme because already you got Hollywood Brown. Again, Worthy doesn't have to come in and be a number one. I think Hollywood Brown is cementing himself as a number one. wide receiver there. He's not the number one option. Travis Kelce and his high money contract is the number one option there. But again, Xavier Worthy does not have to be the number one. He doesn't have to be the savior. All that dude does is got to run fast and catch the damn ball. That's all that needs to happen. He doesn't have to. He just got to learn to play football and learn to catch. And if he can catch, unlike the rest of those dudes that didn't, and the fact of they're really not sure what's going to be doing with Rice, and they're really not sure if they're done with Kadarius. Is he there, Tony? So the Tony alert himself. So I don't really know. I think Worthy is a steal just because of his talent level going there to Kansas City. But I
really did like the Ricky Pearsall pick too.
I like
on this list. That was the only other one that I was like, who could have snuck on this list?
Oh, I liked it. I like it for what it is. But now that the fact of they've kind of decided there in San Francisco that they're not going to trade Ayuk or Debo, so it kind of like pushes my enthusiasm level down a little bit more because they still have Jawan Jennings as well. But after this season, because Ayuk is coming up, needs to be paid, and Jawan Jennings both need new contracts going into next season. So Pearsall, yes, next season, absolutely. Dynasty level, absolutely. But as this exact season right now, my enthusiasm level is not where it would be if they got rid of one of the two.
I feel.
And then your prize pick here on the page is Brian Thomas Jr., which I told you I thought was better wide receiver than Malik Neighbors. And I think dude's going into a situation where he doesn't have to be a number one.
The upside here is tremendous with the size, with the speed, as we kind of talked about in the previous episode as well. I really like him. Even sort of, kind of plug and play between him and, Rome Odunze as far as for the size comparison and sort of what they kind of bring to a team from that perspective. But I do really like the Brian Thomas Jr. fit. I pray that Press Taylor is, at home, right now scheming up plays that are effective and works for him because I think if he has the right scheme, he can be even more electric, really put up that 1,000-yard season. I think that the ceiling for him is, maybe it's, just the LSU, but it does feel like the ceiling for him is like a Justin Jefferson rookie year, as high as it could go. If they, scheme him up that way.
And if Trevor Lawrence can hit him.
And if Trevor Lawrence can hit him. So there's a little bit of ifs, and that's where it gets a little shaky. But I think that from a fantasy perspective, if you just wait on him, stash him, it could be a real nice flex play. Again, another wide receiver 2 option that's really going to be able to pay out some dividends for you later in the end of the year. Don't necessarily be looking for production in week 1 here. Look for production later when he gets more established and that the offense gets more established.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great. I mean, again, I think he comes in as a 4th option, right? As this moment, as we set behind, or maybe 5th option if you count ETN as an option. But like you've got Kirk and you got Gabe and you got Ingram and you got ETN, and he comes as a 4th. I think he's a hell of a steal. And if you get you're looking for that stack potential, and you take Trevor Lawrence and you're subjugated to having to take Trevor Lawrence, I think that you should try to stack him, and I think with Trevor Lawrence at this point, that's the only way you're going to win is if you stack him with somebody. Because again, I went through that hell on earth last season, and it was only because I stacked Trevor Lawrence with ETN and Ingram that I even kept my head up.
Really
had that 9. I had that 9-game win streak, man, but it was because of them.
On the Jags, I will say
you
did go all in last year. Sometimes it works out, and sometimes unfortunately.
Yes. So let's move on to this. The next, the back 5 here. These guys are a little bit later in the draft here. I want to bring everybody's attention to the number 6 here. This was a guy that was on our top fantasy rookie honorable mentions list. Jalen Wright going to probably the premier destination for a fast running back in the NFL. I think that it fits. He fits well there. He runs. He can run the doors off people. And I think everybody's like, oh, all these people that have Devon Achane in Dynasty or people that want to draft Devon Achane, that they're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't think Wright hurts Achane. I think he hurts Mostert. I think Mostert is already starting to be on his back leg. So I think Achane becomes number one. You got Mostert as number two, and Wright's going to be there nipping at his heels because neither one of those guys made it through a full healthy season last season. So there's always that. Just takes that one play where one guy slips in and becomes the next crowned guy. So he's another guy, and the Dolphins stole him in round 4. So I think
that's definitely that's a late round pick. You know, towards the end of your drafts, most likely. Grab him, because the other running backs also have shown that they're injury prone, right? So I mean, it's just one injury away, and he could potentially be in the lineup. So keep him. He might end up being that sort of explosive weapon that kind of no one was thinking about as you're grabbing running backs. It'll be nice that remember him on your radar when it comes time for draft time. I really like him. I think he was a 1,000-yard back at Tennessee, averaging over 4 yards a clip. And I think he did that with additional other running backs in the backfield. So I mean, this is a guy who can get the yards if he gets the touches. But we can't say, oh well, he's going to be high immediately from the beginning. But if the situation works out, it'd be nice to have him on your roster.
Definitely. And then Troy Franklin was also an honorable mention on our list. I put him specifically here as a draft steal because of who the Broncos drafted as their quarterback, Bo Nix. They know each other 100%. Like the back of their hands. This is a steal for sure because I think he goes in. And with Cortland Sutton on the fritz with the organization, them shipping Jerry Jeudy out of town, and only really who they have is Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, and then Franklin comes in. Doesn't have to be a number one, but I think in Bo Nix's mind, he's probably a number one just because he's got that what he knows,
chemistry and connection.
Yes,
this would be a nice fit because of that. Watch out for that one. Watch out for that pick.
And then you got Blake Corum. If you didn't know, he was a running back in Michigan last season. We know what Sean McVay does with running backs. He gets a running back, runs him into the ground for one season. They do great in fantasy. And then what does he do? He drafts one and then bye. So I think Corum comes in here as a steal because just for the potential of Sean McVay having that blow up moment where he just gets mad at a running back and then you're done. Like that running back ceases to exist. Like it's like Thanos. He just snaps and then that running back doesn't exist ever again. Go ask Cam Akers, go ask Todd Gurley. Those dudes just basically they fell off the face of the planet. And then Javon Baker with the Patriots, I think he was drafted. He was the second wide receiver they drafted in this draft. A whole new wide receiver room there pretty much in New England. New quarterback. It's just one of those guys, could be one of those dudes that Drake May finds later on in the season chemistry with, and they build on it together.
I saw an interesting little clip from him that he, had already counted up the receivers that had gone before him in the draft, and how he was saying that he believed that he was better than all of them.
Amon-Ra, St. Brown type shit. That's exactly.
So watch out, number 9, Javon Baker. Watch out. I just like that type of attitude, because that lets me know that you probably in the gym working right now. And sometimes it's these type of receivers, sort of the Stephon Diggs that just types that come out of nowhere. You didn't necessarily see them in college, but they come into the NFL. They have the skill set, they have the right mentality, and they come out and ball.
So, and I had to be a homer. I had to get a Texan on the list here. Cade Stover.
Ohio State, right?
Yes. People call him Farmer Gronk, okay? So, dude, he's going to come in, again, another guy that doesn't have to come in and be the number one, but again, has the chemistry with the quarterback. He was the 2 years ago when CJ Stroud was still at Ohio State, his numbers were really, really high up there. And after he left, his numbers dipped. So now he's coming into a situation where he does have chemistry with the quarterback, and he doesn't have to be the number one right away. Dalton Schultz is the guy here, but I think that this is a dude that it's just kind of another one of those guys that's a wait and see. I mean, Dalton Schultz he did not make it through a full season last season. We do have Brevin Jordan as a number 2, but how long is that going to last when you have your quarterback that's like, okay, well, this was here in Houston, they're saying that CJ had a little bit to do with this pick in general. So I think this is one to watch. And then finally, the honorable mention here. I did this more or less because I think Phil needs to hear this. Phil, I know if you're watching at home or when you do watch this needs to be who you guys need to monitor with, right? So I think Bub Means coming out of, I believe it was Purdue. I think he came out of Purdue. And he can fill that number 3 role there in New Orleans, off of Olave, who works in the slot, and you got Rashid Shaheed, who is the speedster on the outside, and Means can just be that guy that Derek Carr, or if Derek Carr gets his ass benched, Spencer Rattler comes in, and because Spencer Rattler is going to have chemistry with this guy because they're going to work as like number 2s. And if Spencer Rattler ever gets that bump to the top and Derek Carr falls down in the depth chart when the fans start clamoring for because we suck, I think that this is a guy to watch. So just if he's maybe one of those guys that you may not get in your draft, unless you're in like a 14-man league, but if he'll be around and I believe he'll be a waiver wire pickup throughout the season sometime.
He's got a Greg Dortch feel to me. And just he's the type of guy that, you'll be talking about him in those daily rounds, maybe
DFS
towards the end
for
of the
sure.
year. Yeah.
And then
like
showdowns,
that guy for like
definitely
$400 or whatever. It's gonna be Bub Means, and that's what we're gonna be saying. Hey, make sure if you only got a little bit of money in the stash, try run out on him. See, maybe he'll get you a bomb catch or something like that for 50 in a touch.
Yeah, definitely. So now that we've made it through the draft, all the rookies are in their places where they're going to be. There's still a few veterans out there that could make a difference for your fantasy team coming up in the season once they get picked up. We did see, like I said today, that DJ Chark got signed with the Chargers. OBJ got signed with the Dolphins. Chase Claypool got signed with the Bills. So there's still a few names out there that are little household names that could help you and your fantasy team, especially coming in, and your actual favorite team coming into the season. So guys that are left, the number 1 I've heard the most about is Tyler Boyd. It was going to be people were saying, oh, he was going to end up as a Charger, but with the whole DJ Chark signing today, that kind of put a cap on that. So they're saying that he could end up in Tennessee. I don't want to see that shit. I don't want to see that. I
heard a report of the Vikings also.
Now, I heard the Vikings liked him a lot, but I think that it's kind of like that.
Did it already pass though? Kind of that window that they would sign.
Yeah, I don't know if they made that full decision or not. I mean, this is
I got you.
The numbers here are career numbers: 513 receptions and 6,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, and he averages about 11.7 yards a catch. I mean, that's the product he went to the University of Pitt. So, I mean,
it just depends on the fit. Ultimately, if he, I can almost see him landing over with the Raiders. It just depends on the fit, or sort of where he goes, or how much he has left in the tank. But he kind of reminds me of like if he gets in the right offense, kind of like Marvin Jones was Trevor Lawrence's first year, so that go-to target, veteran presence. He could potentially be able to get you through a week or so if you just need to grab up a couple of receivers depending on the fit. You just need to grab up a receiver to get you through a week. He could be the one.
The reason I think he's tied so much to the Titans is because of Brian Callahan, who is the new head coach there. He was the offensive coordinator with the Bengals last season. He was, yes, right. So I think that's why he's tied so heavily to the Titans, which again, he goes there and he's essentially the number 3 guy behind Hop and Calvin Ridley, and then just that guy on showdowns or Sunday, you need to get different pick, and he's one of those guys that could be that savior for you. Or if you're in league fantasy, you're beat up and you need a waiver wire pick for this week. That's one of those dudes that you can see. Next guy on the list, because Zay Jones just got cut by the Jags. They just made this
Had
list.
to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially gave his role to Brian Thomas Jr. So
Basically.
what's the point in keeping you around? Let you go, see if you can find something else. I mean, I didn't think he had this. I honestly didn't think he had 3,000 yards in his total career. But I mean, he does and averages 10.6 yards a catch. So I think that's
If he
good.
can stay
Again,
healthy, he's a solid receiver.
yeah,
It just again, of course, with everything, it depends on the fit. But he could be that sort of sneaky number three. He kind of reminds me of Brian Edwards a few years ago. I think he played for the Raiders
yes,
a few years ago, and the production he had, just every couple of games here and there, he just have a really good game.
yeah,
Um, but again, it just ultimately depends on the fit. The size is the comparison with those two, and the sort of big body receivers who are able to kind of make those contested catches on that third down and 12. He's able to stretch the field though. He's faster than what you think. It's just the injuries that kind of hurt him down the stretch last year.
yeah, yeah. So a person that's a little bit on the different side here is let's let Dalvin Cook. So I thought about this and I was like, do I really want to put this guy on this list? But and then I was like, yes. Essentially, he had a whole freaking season off last season. Like he did really hardly touch the field. Like he didn't. They didn't run him a lot. I mean, he ended up starting the season with the Jets and ended up finishing the season on the Baltimore Ravens playoff roster and just essentially didn't do anything. But look at that number: 6,000 yards rushing, over almost 1,300 attempts, 47 touchdowns, and then he's not a bad receiver as well. So almost 2,000 yards receiving. So I mean, he could be one of the guys. He doesn't have to come in and be a number one on your team. He could be that guy that's a number three veteran, and it just gets you I don't know, here and there touchdown late in the game to seal a win or whatever. So I think that he's probably the best running back that's left out there, just based on pure what he's done in the league before. But I think he could still make some noise in the league. I think maybe if he wanted to. But his thing was always he could never stay healthy to me.
Yeah, I kind of think that he might have sort of what Zeke Elliott was able to kind of pull off with the Patriots last year, and sort of that role within an offense. I think he still has that type of production that to offer. And so if he does, depending again on the fit, land in a situation where they will, at least try to get him within the offensive scheme.
I mean, I don't see why they don't just sign his ass right back to Baltimore. Why not? Why not? Like you got Derrick Henry, you got Keaton Mitchell. Why don't you just bring this dude back? He knows the offense. Just bring him back. Like I don't understand why not. It makes no sense to me. Here's one I love to hate on. This guy. Like what the hell, dude? Like you were like, I remember about 4 years ago, Phil and I sat there and were having a conversation. It was maybe 5 years ago, I guess, because God, COVID happened so long ago. So it was before COVID when DeAndre Hopkins was still on the Texans. We're having this conversation about who was the best wide receiver in the league, and his ass kept saying Michael Thomas. I was like, absolutely not. DeAndre Hopkins is by stretch of tons of yards. So, he's a 3,000 yard receiver. A lot of those yards are with Drew Brees and not have been with anybody else, though. Like it's literally not been with anybody else. And he fights his own teammates. But again, it's kind of the bottom of the barrel at this point. So it's like you're scraping waiver wire picks late in the season. You need somebody along there. They need to call somebody up. It's even like, oh, well, Julio Jones is still available. Michael Thomas is still available. We've seen what they could do. Julio Jones is old and Michael Thomas is brittle as glass. So he's
I think that as you said, I remember the fond memories of the 100 catch season that Michael Thomas would put up, and he really was a top five receiver in the position prior to the injuries. and prior to the quarterback changes. I would like to see him get in on another offense. Maybe he goes down to Tampa Bay, kind of jumps in that scheme there down with Baker and those boys, and see maybe it'd be a good fit down there. But I'm just really interested to see if he does end up landing somewhere, if he kind of wants, ultimately to land somewhere. So, but if he does, um, there are some teams out there that he might actually have some all right production with, maybe even, with Russ and Pittsburgh as well. So again, of course, it always matters about the fit, but I think there are some teams where you might actually have a decent year.
Yeah, definitely. And then final man on the list is we love to help the little man around here. Hunter Renfro. I think that he had a great couple seasons there with Derek Carr there in Vegas as a slot. I think he could come in and be a slot for a team now. Just in that
Any team.
later in his career, he's been around. I mean, I think he still has the full potential. I mean, literally, he's got a solid almost 3,000 yards himself. So he's 10.7 yards a catch, and I mean, he just feed him guy, just a feed guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we were talking about Lad McConkey earlier, feed him, feed him, feed him, feed him. Well, he was kind of that guy for Derek Carr for a while there. Feed him, feed
He
him, feed him.
was.
And he was even that kind of way for Deshaun Watson when they were at Clemson together. So, I mean, I think that there's some teams that could be needing a fourth, as you call it, like Braxton Berrios type guy. This is that guy. I think that they can grab him, and then he could be somebody that wins a game late in a game because they need somebody to make just a contested a contested inside route catch, little slant, little crossing, whatever they need to get the ball in the end zone. So, I mean, that's just really what the five guys that I thought the most of right now. Yep. That could easily change in the next month because obviously the post June 1st cuts that they do before preseason and they start getting in the actual off-season workouts. I mean, they're in OTAs and rookies start reporting here in the next week or so, but things could change. But as of this moment right now, with OBJ and Chark and all those guys already getting signed, Zeke going back to the Cowboys, I think this is the best five that's available at the moment. So, but if you guys got questions, let us know. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear what you guys have thoughts on before we get out of here. I know that we're live on YouTube and Twitter, so we love to hear it, and we love any of the feedback that you guys love to provide with us, and love to have a conversation. So, you guys got thoughts? Just let us know. We'll sit around for a couple more minutes, and then we can go. But Brad, out of all the picks that we talked, besides the picks we just talked about, who was your favorite pick of any pick throughout the draft? Like any pick, like no matter quarterback, safety, tackle, who was your favorite pick out of everybody? Who do you think was your favorite?
I really like I actually really like the Dallas Turner pick. It's funny that when as I think he might be the next Micah Parsons, and so I really wanted to see where he went. And when I saw that the trade came in with the Vikings to trade with the Jaguars, and he got picked, it was almost a little bit frustrating from the sense that I kind of would have enjoyed having Dallas Turner on the team too. You just think about that option, but I understand that maybe, we kind of already had those positions filled. It's an offensive game. You got to kind of go for that another receiver, another option to kind of give the Trevor Lawrence and feed the beast. But I actually did like that pick, kind of sort of outside of the normal realm of all the other ones. I also like the Ricky Pearsall pick. I know from a long-term perspective, not necessarily from a short-term. I just think that his skill set, he reminds me a little bit of Adam Thielen, and so I really like that pick.
And I know you were like a a big proponent of Adam Thielen. I mean, how many times we done fought over him in drafts like together. So
I think from a PPR perspective, those are the best style receivers. Some people, guys who can get 10 targets, but catch virtually all 10 of those targets. I mean, it really changed the game for you, and he's been able to do that effectively. Adam Thielen has over the years, and I've watched Ricky Pearsall being a Gator fan over the years, and I've
some of those
over the
catches,
years,
dude.
and
Some of those catches are insane.
he really, but yeah, I know you see those catches, the all kind of off the kilter catch, but also just just regular catches. I just wish they actually got him and kind of fed him the ball more last year, but they just kind of it seemed to go away from him. But he's actually been able to separate more than what you would think, and that leads really well to the NFL game, which is why I think he got drafted in the first round.
Oh, that's cool. I think my favorite pick was probably what's his name, Nate Wiggins to Baltimore. I liked him. Like I had him mocked to Philly, but him when I knew when Dallas took Guyton and Clement and Wiggins was still on the board, I was like, why in the hell do I think Baltimore's about to take him? And some told me because like it was like this dude is 100% a Baltimore Raven. Now that I think about it, like literally, this dude is 100% Baltimore Raven. And when he was still there, and they grabbed him, I was like, this is 100% a Baltimore Raven pick. And then I also like
have that luck. It's the weirdest thing about the Ravens, how it's like players just fall to them every year, and you go, how is this team who drafts like back 15 every year, but yet somehow they just find players. They'll find a Patrick Queen, they'll find a Ronnie Stanley, they'll find a Lamar Jackson, they'll find them in the end of the draft, not even at the beginning, and still continue to dominate. It's just it's the same with that pick. He's gonna go into a great fit because I think it'll be a number 2 outside of Marlon Humphrey. Perfect fit. He doesn't have to go up against number 1 receivers and deal with all of that drama and chaos. The number 2 is his speed. It'll be perfect for him.
Yeah, I like that one. And then of course I liked how the Carolinas did Xavier Legette a solid and traded back in and grabbed him. I thought that was cool. You guys checked out. If you haven't checked out his press conference, go check out his press conference. He's a hell of a fun watch himself. So, and I think he's going to be good. I mean, he's a good receiver too. So I think that was a good pick.
Somebody got to get the ball there. So watch out for him. Somebody got to get the ball.
Yeah. And I think Thielen takes the heat off of him, and he helps automatically. So with that being said, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We appreciate all the love and support. We wanted to let y'all know that coming into the season, we're thinking about doing some giveaways and maybe even thinking about doing a DraftKings league. So if we will be the 3 of us, Phil, myself, and Brad, having a DraftKings league contest every week. And if you can beat us, you might end up with a giveaway that way. We'll give some giveaways with subscribers and stuff like that. But we are super stoked to get into the season. I mean, it's only counting the days to September now, so
it'll be here for you know it.
Yeah, definitely. So schedule release next week, I believe. So that'll give us a lot more to talk about, and we will make sure y'all follow us on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and YouTube, Facebook, everything like that. Tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your mom, whatever. So we love y'all, and we will catch y'all later.
Peace.